Welcome to Living Marvelously with me, Laurie Jonas. This is the show where we unleash the marvelous potential in every woman. Are you ready to dream big and leap into a life you love? Don't let the expectations of others choose for you. Step out of your comfort zone and learn how to create what your life looks like. I'll take you on an inspirational journey, helping you tap into the wellspring of your inner strength, get clear on your life purpose, and unleash the vision you came into the world to share. On Living Marvelously, you will learn about personal development, self-care, and spirituality. And together, we will connect with others, sharing their unique energies, and learn to create a world that allows everyone to shine. Living Marvelously starts now. Hello, everyone. I'm Laurie Jonas, and you are listening to Living Marvelously with Laurie Jonas on Transformation Talk Radio. So stay with me for the next 30 minutes. We're going to discuss self-care for women in midlife with Heather Orengia. Be sure to join me every second and fourth Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, and we'll have some great discussions on how to use your inner power to make your life marvelous. So, like I said, today we're talking about a topic that's close to many of our hearts. How do we make ourselves a priority when so much in our world is changing? Because midlife can be a whirlwind of responsibilities, of changes, emotions, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. So in this video, I want to talk to Heather from Orengia Solutions Wellness Coaching, and we're going to share some practical self-care ideas and tips to help you find balance, nurture your well-being, and embrace this incredible chapter of life with confidence and joy. So welcome to Heather. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yay, I'm so excited for this conversation. And it's because it's so nice for women to hear from multiple voices that self-care is vital to a healthy and happy life. Because sometimes I feel like self-care really gets overused, or people think that means something really silly, but it's so essential. So before we get into all that, though, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I'll start with what I do. I really help us women, especially those of us in midlife, because as you said, it's a challenging time through those transitions in life. And it doesn't have to be like huge transitions. It can be, anything that we want to change in our health and wellness, maybe career changes. We want to move up in our organization, change roles, maybe even leave our careers completely, or any other big transitions in our life where having the support of a coach really helps navigate those things more confidently.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, I have an older daughter, so I have 2 grandchildren. But I also have a teen and a preteen still at home. So in my late 30s, I decided to go through the transition of starting my family over again. I have also been through a couple of divorces, job loss. I returned to college full time when I was a single mother. And then most recently, leaving the corporate world to set out on my own and start my own coaching business. So transition throughout life is not a new concept for me.
No, it sounds like you've experienced a lot. So that's I'm sure, very helpful when you talk to your clients.
Yes, definitely having that experience and, being able to empathize and understand, where a lot of women are when going through those changes, so you're not alone out there. If you're, if you're going through changes thinking, why am I having such a hard time? It's okay. It's normal.
Yeah. And I think it's really important too, and I've talked about this before, there are, like you said, some big changes and there are little changes. Like some of the things you've been through are big changes, like being a young mother, going through divorce, losing jobs. Those are big changes. But then you mentioned, maybe I just want to change how I eat. Maybe I just want to change, because in midlife, women's bodies change so much that we really don't have much control over. How do we navigate that? Or even just, now that I'm an empty nester now, what do I do all day? Those types of maybe smaller changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes those smaller changes are more difficult. The big transitions that we go through, sometimes we don't have a choice. they're thrust upon us and we have to deal with it. And so we look for the best way to manage through that. And like you said, those smaller changes, I want to eat better. I want to exercise more. I want more family time. Those are the ones where we need to be intentional and we need to make those things important for us. They tend to be the ones that we're like, I'm going to do this. And then life happens and we're like, oh, well,
I didn't do it
maybe
again.
it was a nice to have. Maybe it was, I'll get around to that later.
Yeah.
But these are the things that, when we talk about self-care, they fall into that bucket. And it's super important that we are honoring ourselves and making sure that we're making time for those things that, even though they might not seem really big transitions or changes, they're important to us and to our well-being over time.
Yeah, because I also think in midlife, because we've already experienced so much, right? We've gone through, puberty and high school and being young families and raising our children and letting our children go. I mean, we've already experienced so much and we've sort of been there for everyone else. Now is really our time to really take care of ourselves. And it's hard for some people to make that transition. Like who else who else can I take care of, right? Like maybe it's their parents or maybe it's, their siblings or I don't know who, but it's like they're always looking for somebody else to take care of. But wait a second, come back.
Yeah,
I need you to take care of me.
Yeah, it's a great point, Laurie, because sometimes that becomes our identity.
Yeah.
We're providers, we're helpers, we're always, as you said, taking care of everyone else. And and a lot of times during that time period, we're not taking care of ourselves. When we're in our 20s and 30s, it matters, but not as much.
Yeah.
And in midlife, it's like, it's really important to honor what our bodies are telling us. And so learning that being that constant caregiver for others isn't our identity, learning who we truly want to be going forward and yeah, making that time for ourselves is so important.
Yeah. So, okay, I want to get back to you again because I want to hear a little bit about why and how you made the leap from corporate to coaching, because I think it's so important for others to hear how you don't have to be stuck in something that maybe doesn't bring you joy anymore or just like doesn't feel good anymore because there's so many possibilities out there.
Yeah. So right off it was not it wasn't, I woke up one day and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go run my own business. I was actually in the coaching space part-time off and on, depending on what my career was doing and what was going on in my personal life, for about 7 years. So during that time, I went through a divorce. I moved, I changed jobs, and all during that time I was working full time in engineering and program management roles. So it wasn't like I just had a role that was, I went in, punched the clock, and then at the end of the day left. There were a lot of nights, sometimes weekends, depending what was going on. I was on call, had global teams, global customers. So the coaching space was kind of my outlet. It was something I found a lot of passion in, not only learning about it, applying the tools and techniques for my own life, and then helping others in that space too. And I knew at some point I wanted to transition out of corporate and go into coaching. But during that time, I had never really put a stake in the ground and said, okay, on this date, I'm going to go make it happen. What occurred, however, was in my last corporate role, I was in the role for about a year and a half, and it was quite a demanding role. It was executive level. I was working 50 to 60 hours a week. two children still in elementary school. And what I found was that impact of stress and also being in perimenopause. Frankly, I thought I was going insane. What was going on with me? I'm like, why can I not handle what I used to be able to handle?
Yeah.
I feel like my body is just rejecting everything. I don't even know a word to put on how I felt. I'm like, I don't know what is going on. Because everything that I had done in my, again, 20s and 30s, I would have just,
Yeah.
pushed through it.
Yeah.
And my physical and mental well-being was just, it was taking a toll on me. And I knew that I had to make a change. And it just became very apparent that if I was going to make a change and leave corporate, now was the time. There were some other things that were kind of fell into place. They were like these big, like, hey, now's your opportunity. Let's go.
Yeah.
There were things like where I was at in my role. My role was actually pivoting, and it was like I could either kind of reinvent my role in the company that I was in or leave. So it was it was actually a nice transition point for me in my career, which is good for um, my own mental well-being, if you will, because I wasn't worried like I was leaving them hanging.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a nice transition point for me, but it was scary still, even though there were all of these signs like, hey, you can either transition your role or you can leave the business. I knew physically and mentally for my own well-being, I needed to make a big change. I had the support of, financial support of my husband, and yet very, very scary. Like it was months of going through the whole
Yeah.
transition. And very grateful that, as I mentioned earlier, using those tools and techniques from coaching to really kind of do some self-coaching. I also had some peer coaches that I leaned heavily on during that time to get through that transition. So.
Yeah. I love that story because it emphasizes how we have to listen. We have to listen to our bodies and what it's
Mhm.
telling us. We have to listen to some signs from the universe that, hey, I'm giving you an out here. Or, the signs that say maybe you should think about this. Because even no matter what choice you made, you probably still would have made it to um, coaching, but that was a path that you listened to and you
Mhm.
found yourself on. And I'm guessing you're very happy that you did that.
Yes. Oh gosh, absolutely. I mean, there's no being totally transparent. Running your own business is not easy.
Right.
Has its own challenges, but it's the benefits, it's the flexibility to honor my body when I
Hmm.
need to. It's not like,
Hmm.
oh, well, I've got this big meeting today, or I've got this customer coming in, even though I am feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
I am able to flex with that now. More time to focus on my children at a time where I felt that I needed that they needed me more than my job needed me.
Hmm.
And so I have that ability to be flexible there, and then truly living out just my passion of helping other women, through
Yeah.
coaching and through their transitions in life. So it's the reward far outweighs the challenges that are there.
Yeah. We're almost coming up to our break, but just real quickly, can you just tell me like what drives you to share your gifts? Like I know you have a gift for hearing women and helping them, become unoverwhelmed.
Yeah.
What drives you to do that?
That's a great question. I think knowing the challenges that I had, all through my life, and not realizing that there was this resource out there of life coaches to help.
Hmm.
And also being in, mostly in a male dominated industry most of my career, and firsthand hearing the challenges that other women were going through. And at that point in time, oh my gosh, I just felt drawn to help them at that point in time. Wasn't really sure like what that meant. I just had
Yeah.
this intense I need to do something in this space because I don't feel like there's enough resource um, in front of us to help.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. Because I mean, we all, once you're in the coaching world, you know that there are a lot of coaches out there who can help you. But if
Yeah.
you're not in the coaching world, you don't know that.
Yes.
And so each of us that try to help other women and as coaches are the right coach for somebody. So it's so important that if that's your calling, that it's meant to be, and there's somebody out there who's just waiting for you to coach them. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yes.
yeah, super good.
Absolutely.
Um, all right. When we come back from break, I want to get into how, let's talk about stress in midlife women. Like what stresses, we talked a little bit about already, but what stresses do we see in women?
Mm-hmm.
And then let's talk about some techniques and some ideas we have for them to honor themselves and to, do some self-care in their life. So
Yeah.
we'll do that
Perfect.
when we come back. So I'm Laurie Jonas. You're listening to Living Marvelously. And like I said, when we come back, Heather and I are going to continue this conversation and provide some real and practical ways for self-care. So we'll see you soon. All right, welcome back. We are back on Living Marvelously with me, Laurie Jonas, and my friend, Heather. Before we continue, I just want to invite you to check out my website, livingmarvelously.com, where I have 300 blog posts and many products and services to inspire you to live your most marvelous life and see the power you have in creating it. And before we go today, I'm also going to have Heather share where you can find her as well. So, okay, let's continue our discussion. So, like I said before we went on break, let's talk about stress in midlife women and why coaches are needed for women because there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the big things that I see often, in my clients and also friends and colleagues
Mhm.
is that when we hit midlife, there's almost like this anticipation things should be slowing down, or we've been doing these things for several years and things should be easier, and then all of the sudden, like we could have more things on our plate, um, and then also our bodies are changing.
Yeah,
So the way that we used to deal with things might not work anymore for us, but we don't know why. And a lot of the times it's not immediately apparent. It's like, okay,
mhm.
normally I do this, but why am I feeling so stressed? Why am I feeling so overwhelmed? Things aren't really that different in my life. Um, and so when we hit that, I'll call it like the intersection of normal life and then mid body changes, it can create a real, I don't know, storm for
Yeah,
us,
yeah,
and so managing through that can be challenging, especially when some of us might have still kids in middle school and high school, as well as maybe aging or ill parents or family members that we're kind of expected to take care of, or just dealing with things that
mhm.
weren't in place maybe just 5 or 10 years before.
Yeah,
Um, still continuing to try to, you know, if not just hold on to our jobs, it's it's continue to grow our careers. We still have
yeah,
several years in front of us that we want to make sure that we are contributing positively in the workplace and in our careers and still enjoying that. So just dealing with all of those changes. And again, it's not like somebody wrote on the calendar, hey, October of 2024 things are going to change for you and you've got to
right.
plan ahead.
Yeah,
It happens suddenly, and we're just there. There's no uh, yeah, there's no notification.
right. Yeah. Like all of a sudden you, like you said, you can't handle it when somebody says something critical to you at your job, where in the past you'd be like, oh, I can handle that. I'll just, whatever. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden you feel some anger come up inside you, or you're anxious, and that's all, that could be hormones. That could be, just stress from your other parts of your life. And then the whole body thing is, that's tough. Like any woman who's in midlife
Hmm.
can speak to it. It just changes on you, and you really can't do anything. I mean, there are things you can do, but it feels like you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. 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 Something as simple as just, your sleep starts to be disrupted,
Mm.
even though you're not doing anything different, then starts to impact you during your day. Like you said, maybe you're find yourself a little short with people and you're like, what's going on? And
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's
definitely.
like, so, um, of course, menopause, of course, chronic conditions that maybe you have that can be health concerns, um, family responsibilities. We talked about aging parents. We talked about empty nest syndrome,
Hmm.
um, career transitions. We talked about that, financial strain, maybe,
Yes.
um, even just reinventing yourself, like is this who I really want to be? Maybe there's something different. Maybe I'm at the midway point, hopefully, of my life. Is there something else I want to try?
Yeah.
Maybe some of that reflection,
Yes.
beauty standards, of course,
Oh
right?
gosh. Yeah. Hmm.
Don't even get you started, right? Um, Role expectations, just boundaries, how we have to set, there's so many stresses. So anyway, so just some other things that to think about in midlife. There's just so much. I have a parent who is in a nursing home, and I had to help get him there. It's a little difficult to really watch that. It's almost
Yeah.
like I've got a grandson and an aging parent, and they're almost at the same stages of their life, so it's hard to watch. And we're in the middle trying to navigate both.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how are we gonna, like, how do we deal with it? How do we?
Yeah. 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 There's so many good ways to do it. But we have time to cover a handful. I
Yeah,
think first and foremost, it's truly making time for ourselves. And it's hard. I get it. I mean, list out all the things that you just went through, and you're like, what do you mean make time for myself? Like, I have all this stuff going on.
yeah,
Um, and the saying is true. Like, if we're not taking time to fill our own cups, how can we give back to the people that mean most in our life?
yeah,
And it's so important that we are making that a priority. I always tell my clients, like, put it in your calendar, and it's as important as, a big work meeting. It's as important as taking your kid to the doctor or your parent to the doctor. Like, that is your time. It has to be non negotiable.
hmm.
Um,
Can
and
we
that's
just?
actually where I find coaching can help a lot, because we have limiting beliefs,
Yes,
or gremlins, as I call them. Like, we're like, well, maybe I'm not deserving. Maybe it's just I'm not important. This other stuff's more important to me.
yeah. I think it's really
Um,
important. Like, what I just want to unpack that just a little bit, because I say that
yeah,
a lot. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't give that same love to others. And I think some people don't really get that.
yeah,
I mean, like, what does that mean to you?
yeah. Um, like, I'm very analytical, so I break it down. Like, if I'm not healthy, like if I'm fed,
Yeah.
I can't help anybody else.
Yes.
And that might seem drastic from the point where somebody's sitting at the moment going, yeah, but that's not where I'm at.
Yeah.
But the chances that you end up there become much higher the older that we get
Yeah.
and the less that we're taking care of ourselves. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
really getting that mindset, instilled into others, that like it really is necessary.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, here's the thing, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. And I think that's another misnomer that we have. It's like, I don't have the time. It can be little things like walking outside and taking in nature just for a few minutes to relax.
Yes.
I love to teach box breathing for people that are in a stressful situation or going into a stressful situation. It takes a few minutes and it can make all the world of a difference of how you feel in the moment or prior to going into a stressful situation.
Yeah.
And then journaling. I think,
One of my
you're
favorites.
into journaling, and, learning that journaling doesn't have to be hard. I like to think of it as just a thought dump. Like, what's all this stuff going on in my head?
Yes.
Throw it down on a piece of paper, and then I'm fresh
Yes.
to take on my day.
Yes.
So those are some of the tips that
Oh my gosh, we could go on forever
I know.
and talk about the stresses and how we can, just relieve some of those stresses in midlife. And unfortunately, we don't have the time today. Maybe you'll have to come back and we'll have to do some more another time, because that was great. But I want you to be able to share. How can people find you, Heather?
Yeah, so they can find me on my website. It's orengiasolutions.com. You can find the services that I offer there, schedule a discovery call, or just shoot me a note with some questions. That's the best way to find out how I can help and how to reach out to me.
Yeah. And I just want to mention, you didn't mention you're a trained IPEC coach, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think I've heard of that a lot, and it's a great training that
it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm biased, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's fabulous. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I hope we've inspired some women to start thinking about how their life is going and how they can just make it more fun and more joyful, and they don't have to sit in the stuckness of being stressed out or overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah,
All right.
you.
That is going to be it today. So thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back on the second and fourth Thursdays at 8 a.m. Pacific time. The next time on Living Marvelously in 2 weeks, I want to talk about ways that we can use the universe to guide us, just like Heather did when she transitioned her job. So thank you, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Living Marvelously with me, your host, Laurie Jonas. Tune in next time to unleash the marvelous potential in every woman, every second and fourth Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com, as I help you choose a life that you are passionate about. Learn to embrace your unique self, dream big, leap into what you choose to have your marvelous life look like. Together we create a world that allows everyone to shine. For more information, visit livingmarvelously.com. That's livingmarvelously.com. See you next time on Living Marvelously.